Hi and welcome. Today I have a piece for my homemade art journal, and I'm starting with a 5.5 by 5.5 piece of Bristol smooth paper. That's just the size for my book. You can make it any size. And because I don't want a white background, I am covering it with my trusty old paper, Distress ink, and I'm just scraping the bottom of this pad, just trying to get it all out. And I think this is at the end of covering this. I not only get out I have a large pad, fresh pad waiting in the wings, so I start using that on my next project. And I also replaced the foam because the foam is leaving little bits of pieces as I'm using it. I don't care that it's covering awesomely or anything, because it's going to be covered up a lot by other things. So I have this stencil I just recently purchased from Stampers Anonymous, and I can't remember what the name it was or who actually created it. I think it was Ollie something or other. Anyways, it's 6x6, and so I'm just going to cover my whole paper, and I'm using 3 or 4 different greens. I'm using crushed olive, shabby shutters, meadowed lawn, and peeled paint. Now, peeled paint, of all those, peeled paint there is an oxide, so I'm using it last. I don't want any of the oxide paint to come in contact with the pads of my other paint, because it can contaminate your other pads. So I just make sure that if I'm doing that, mixing my paints, I do the oxide last. So once I get it covered, I put it down on top of the paper I'm using, and I love that it's going to go from edge to edge. And then I always have a roll of paper towel, and so I just roll over it. I like doing that because if any happens to seep out from the edges, then the paper towel will collect it right up. And this is it's a Taylor chalk thing. I don't think I put that in my supplies. But I'm using it to do a little bit of white spatter, and I don't want the white to get on the green, so that's why I did it prior to removing the stencil. And then I give that a dry. And if there's any loose puddles, I grab it up with my paper towel. I'm just going around my edges, just giving it a little bit of distress vintage photo around all the edges. I'm blending it in for it to come in a little bit, and then I'll just hit the edges again with it straight. So I'm starting with this, looks like a information card or something, but it was in one of the ephemera packs from Tim Holtz, maybe Pallett. And so I've got different things, like I think the leaves are from the Layers Botanical. This peach, which I don't end up using, is a section from a collage strip. you know, it looks like I'm going to use it, but I don't use that. And then this is another piece from a collage strip, and I do use that. Things get moved around just a bit in the final product. And also, if you saw the picture at the beginning, you want to make sure, and at least if you don't watch the whole thing, at least go through the end, because I did make a pretty substantial change from after I took the picture to the very end. It was even after I got it into my book. I looked at it, I thought, oh, I need to do one thing. And it's a pretty big difference. I just had to add something. So I'm just trying out different bits of ephemera. I'm not going to name anything out until I'm going to do the final piece, because some of these don't make it in. So this is when I decide I want to add a little bit of this collage paper from Tim Holtz. It's very leafy, and I thought it would be nice to have it extending out from behind the card. And so I just need to make sure it doesn't have any straight edges. And because that's there, it does alter a little bit of what I'm doing. Like, I don't want a piece at the very top of the card. So I think all those things that are on there now, I do keep. So the collage paper, I don't know if I mentioned, it's from the Botanical collage paper, and I'm gonna put that down with some collage medium. And yeah, I also trim the edge at the bottom just so it's not a straight edge. It will kind of blend into the paper better if you don't have a straight edge. And I'm using a water pen for that. It just helps. You can rip it, but I think there's something about the water pen that just kind of helps dissolve that edge a little bit. And now we're using collage medium because I have not sealed this at all. So the distress inks that I put down with a stencil are water reactive or moisture reactive. So it could pick up some of that green and move it around a little bit, but just a little bit. And because you'd see if you can see in the very edge of that spreader that it's kind of got a green tint to it. So I never want to put that back into my collage medium because now it has a little bit of ink on it. And so I just am careful that way. And there, I did put it back in. There must not have been any on there. So I put the collage medium down top and then bottom. And because I don't want it to look uneven, I actually then cover the entire surface with a collage medium. So, and I think you'll see a couple spots that just kind of look like the ink ran a little bit, but it's all going to be covered up in the end, so it doesn't, well, not all, but those particular spots won't show. And I don't really care if it does or not, because I am not really into making it perfect. Perfection is just not doable. And I dry the collage medium. And I just want to make sure that the collage medium doesn't make it stick to the paper, so later I'm having to fight with that. So I kind of pull it up pretty quick and also trim the excess of the tissue paper. So now I can figure out how I want these to come on. So I'm using the large card, I'm using the little collage strip on the left, and then I'm using a couple pieces from, I think they're from Field Notes, the little cards. And I'm using that green leaf, and I want part of it to go behind the card and part of it to go in front of the card, so it's a little tricky. And that's another from the Field Notes. So I put it down, and then I realized in a minute, I was like, oh no, I didn't want that to go all the way down because I want the postcard to kind of slide. So I kind of have to lift it up a bit to get that postcard underneath that leaf. And then I put up too much. I didn't want it up that much because I want the stem to go underneath. So I end up taking it off and just redoing it. Luckily, it hadn't dried completely. And the collage medium probably was the hero of the day for that. Saved it from ripping up what was behind it. So I've got most of the things I was playing with earlier, and if you can see on that card, there's like a line that seems like it should have something on it. And maybe someone signed something over to the right, but there's so much of the line left. I thought, well, something needs to go there. So I just grabbed my Eccentric stamp collection, and there's one that with a telephone number on it, and I just think that one's really cute. So I decided to stamp the telephone number on that line. And I'm also using a number strip from Tim Holtz, and often I want it to be slightly narrower than what it was, and so I'll trim top and bottom and then edge the edges with the vintage photo, as well as giving it a little crease. And it's just going to go below that card. And then next I'm adding the stamp, or this sticker. I said stamp because it kind of looks like a stamp. And so I'm just trimming off the edges, and I don't get it exactly straight, but that's okay. And I wasn't going to worry about the little scallopies. I wasn't going to try to go through and get those out. Maybe some people want to do that, and that's perfectly fine. But I just add a little bit of vintage photo to it so it's not quite so white. And then these are really sticky, so I don't usually worry about adding any glue to them. I just stick them down. Now, this butterfly is from a scrapbook piece of paper, and so I just cut it out. I give it a slight fold in the middle so that the wings can stay up a little bit, although they get shut in my book, so they do go flat down a little bit. But so that goes up there. And then I'm going to add a sentiment, and I think this is from the Small Talk, yes. And I pick one out that says, good things are going to happen. I add some Distress ink so it doesn't look so white, and glue it onto the bottom of the card. Yeah, I always add glue to these just to make sure. I've never had one come up, but well, it might be because I always glue them too. So, um, so this is the last thing I do. I hope you enjoyed this piece. I've got some final pictures coming up because one of the things, I add a second butterfly. When I finished putting it in my book, walked away, came back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think that needs another butterfly. In that page, they have 3 different sizes. So I grabbed the next larger size butterfly and I slapped it down on that card, and I think it makes a huge difference. So I hope you like it. Please, if you have not subscribed, please do. And give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Either way, have an awesome day.